Hi, guys. This is Emmy with Black Salt Circle Podcast. Today is episode 1. We have Miss Vicky from the Not So Perfect Bigfoot Show. Welcome, Vicky. We're glad to have you here.
Thanks for having me, Emmy. This is your first episode, and I just feel like I'm so privileged to be that guest. And I think that this has been a long time coming, and I think everyone that's just tuning in, the more they know you, the more they're going to love you because you're blunt, you're outspoken, and you're very honest.
Yes, ma'am. So how have you been?
You know what? I've been doing good, been getting some shows lined up. On the show where I call it the Not So Perfect Bigfoot Show for a reason. It's because, anything goes. If anyone watches my show, they know my black cat Swamp Kitty likes to crash the show all the time. Takes out the camera. Sometimes she attacks me on screen. My guests are real people. They have kids, that you might hear them in the background, dogs barking, cuckoo clocks going off, but we keep it real and we just keep working through it and going through it, and we edit very little on the show. My show is kind of focused more on the people behind the experience or the research. I think the person is just as important as the experience or the research, and it's kind of hard to be critical of someone when you see that they are just as human as you are.
Yes.
You and I, you and I have been friends a long time, and you have a knack for this. And we both are dogmen people. I kind of have went toward the Bigfoot side because when I married my husband, all of his friends are Bigfoot people, and I've had a Bigfoot experience. I wouldn't call it a class A. It was just experiences in the swamp, and my preferred area of I don't call it research, but my preferred area to go out in is the swamp. My husband's preferred area is the Uwharrie Mountains, oldest mountains in the world, and he gets a lot of activity up there, and so his circle is the Bigfoot circle. So when we go out looking for an experience, he's looking to get that Bigfoot experience. But I've always got Dogman on my mind because that's where I had my first encounter, and that's the first thing that I ever saw him in the cryptid world. That I actually looked at it, and it wasn't long, but I knew it wasn't normal for my environment. So that's how I met you, and you've just been probably 5 years. 4 or 5 years.
Actually, it's going to be longer than that. It's about 5 or 6 years.
I guess we're OGs in the dogman world.
Well, we've been around it for a long time. I was usually back in the scenes of it and stuff. That was more of my intel, was doing intel, doing studies, making charts of occurrences, and trying to map out and keep a map going. I still do that to this day. Like you said, Dogman was more of my favorite cryptid. But do I believe that there are other things that exist? Yes, I do. I'm a firm believer that there's other things.
There's a lot of things that aren't talked about. We actually have a I'm Christian, so we actually have a pastor here that when he was a little boy, he saw something with a goat's head with a man's body on it. Still, 40 years later, he stands by his story. And that happened here locally in North Carolina. So there are things out there, and there are people that bring that with them throughout their adulthood. But who do you talk to that about? There's you live in a world where people deny it, or they call you a kook for believing. And then you go into the community, and sometimes the community is a little bit more vicious than the real world.
Jeez. Absolutely. And note to self, there's a difference between a goat man and a satyr.
I don't know the difference. Educate me.
So the difference between a goat man and a satyr, goat man, it has the head of the goat and has the body of a man. A satyr was a creature that the bottom part of it was the actual legs of a goat. It was bipedal. and had the upper part of a man and still had the horns. Satyrs were more in Greek mythology. You would see a lot of that. And I have heard of people seeing those things too. I actually heard, I listened to a lot of the other podcasters and stuff with their guests and everything, and actually heard a story of a man. And I think it had to have been a while ago when this episode had come on, had been talking about actually running into something like that. And it would, in his description, it sounded more of a satyr than an actual goat man. They're two different elements. But there's something different. I'll have to show you that. I'll send you some information on what they actually look like in a different show that we come, and I'll show you what they look like so you'll know the actual difference in what culture it came from. But yeah, I had a friend, and I'll tell you a little story. And sometimes it was like, and she swears by it, and her sisters swear by it. She got 4 sisters, and they were originally came from Idaho, and then they moved over into Utah later on in life. But I think this was in Idaho when it happened. She said that, this is something you can take with a grain of salt because it sounded too good to be true. But when her sisters and them were like, yeah, that happened. They actually ran into a satyr, but they said it was like a smaller version of it, like a pygmy version of it. And she said it was just the weirdest shit. It just came out of nowhere and stuff. And she lived in a house that was always active. But in some of the aspects of her being, because of the things that she practiced and stuff, those are things, again, that have to go with the paranormal, how it's coming, why it's coming, the ins and outs. That is the biggest thing with me with research, is trying to find a source of what the issue is so that I know how to react to it, using the common core things that we use, just K through 12 of common thesis. I'm not going to make a sound decision about something until I know all the facts. I'm not going to sit and listen to something and just go by every little thing. I'm going to go through and analyze every little part and try to ask the appropriate questions to people in order for me to understand what's going on so that I can tell you the correct thing, because it's not always what people think that it is. I'm not disheartening, and I'm not discrediting the person that's saying it. I'm just saying that I need to come to a valued communication. Anybody you would expect to get you some answers, you would want them to go along that line, because it doesn't make sense to just go by everything. And that's why I try to scope and read through our viewers anytime that they have any stories that they want to tell us and stuff, or things that in personal accounts. I'm not here to discredit anything. That's the science part, or the mind of me, of researching and trying to do it properly so that I can document it and put it in a file to be filed. And I'm doing this a lot for research, just like y'all. Y'all know what y'all are doing. And I've told you before, Bigfoot is not my area. It never really has. Do I understand how the logic and how y'all work around with Bigfoot is? Absolutely. And in all honesty, out of anything that's been seen for years and years and years, the biggest thing that people, even when you even mention cryptid, is first, it's a Bigfoot. Mm-hmm. It's always a Bigfoot. When you ask somebody just a generalized question about how much you know about cryptids, what do you know what a cryptid is? And usually a majority of the time you're going to get the answer, well, Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And they're very interesting and stuff. And at some point I flip around when I do my research, because I research a numerous of things, but like your knack now is pushing more towards Bigfoot because of your husband. And that's what y'all do together. That's y'all's time together and with y'all's group. I try to mingle around. I go and research something, and then I go to the next thing, do a little bit more research on this one, go to another thing, do another research. So I make it lively. So when I'm not all clustered into one,
Mm-hmm.
just like y'all's main focus is being proper out in the field, doing the right things, treating it like a crime scene when you go to something. You can't be contaminating the area and and expect good results from it with what y'all are able to do. And
Agree. I think, you know, it's called the Not So Perfect Bigfoot Show, but you know, if you look at my guests, I've a lot of my guests that have had Bigfoot experiences have also had dogman experiences, and so when we decided to start the show, it wasn't just going to be about Bigfoot.
mm-hmm.
Um, and yes, Bigfoot has been around a long time, and I'll tell you, it's because of the Patty film. It's because, you know, and if there's an abundance of knowledge out there, you know, Wikipedia says it's a mythical creature. That's what Wikipedia says. It's
Mm-hmm.
then you're literally telling, you know, half the world that have had an experience that they're not seeing what they're seeing. And contrary to popular belief, people are very observant. Their mind does try to fool them and talk them out of what they've seen. It's self-protection thing. But where you know, have a general broad area, like I said, I go back to the people.
Mm-hmm.
And what I wanted to do, I wanted to open the door for, and I don't consider myself a researcher because I know what's out there. And what I wanted to do is focus on the people. And when they talk about the experience and the research, that's just a bonus.
Yeah.
It's just a bonus.
And like you, I agree with you. I want to focus on the people, but I got to be able to tell them the correct thing
Mhm.
when I go and I talk about these things about even, and it may be something as simple as the description of what they're saying, is that I can go by description. But anything, majority, when it has to do with when people are, and that's the thing is I've been doing this, and people may laugh about it. I've been researching this stuff literally since I was 10 years old. I'm
You
41.
you had a story, and your experiences is what's brought you here, but you shared a story with me years ago about the dog that turned, something jumped into the dog, and it killed some animals on
Yes.
property.
Oh my God.
That, so you have those experiences, and you've seen that, you witnessed that, and it was so
That
vivid.
actually, on that one, I didn't. Actually, one of my friends did. The guy that a friend of ours that we were staying with, it was in Oklahoma. And I can't believe you even remember that, because I try to not remember it sometimes. It's one of those things that I put back in the back of my head, because there's some things, I've had experiences with paranormal and things that it was not bad. And I'll tell you firsthand, it wasn't a negative experience. I knew that it was there. They wanted me to know that they were there, and I did. And I was nothing negative from it. It was not demonic. It was not anything like that. It just wanted you to know that it was there. Some
Well,
things get stuck. And not necessarily stuck. Things have the free will to come back and forth. People don't realize that.
it's
But there are
realm,
cases. But there
it's
are
realm,
cases. Go ahead.
it's realm based. Everything has an energy.
Oh
It's realm
yeah.
based. We live 3D.
And that place, hell, I had a hard time telling. I had a hard time telling. I've gotten a little bit better about it. I don't like. I hadn't made mention of that. Actually, a buddy of mine had said something to them, kind of explained it. I had to call him and tell him, and it was the guy from the paranormal show that was supposed to actually be on tonight, but couldn't because they were sick. I told him about it. He goes, that was the most jacked up thing that he had ever heard and stuff. I think that area that we lived in, and it was called Madill, Oklahoma. And it was because my ex-husband at the time had gotten a job and was promised all this stuff, and we didn't have a place to go to because the rent house that we were supposed to go have wasn't there all of a sudden. So we moved 2 hours out of state, and a friend of ours opened their home to us that we were friends with in the town that he was working in. And the property that he lived on, when you even run, I can remember the way it felt to even to this day, and it's been a long time. And when I mean, even entering the gate, I could feel it. You know, when you go in, I don't know how, when you go around some certain places that are haunted so bad that it hits you in the face, you can cut the tension in the air with a butter knife.
Mm-hmm.
But I felt it because not only I'm a clairvoyant and an empath, I'm not ashamed of it. I don't tell a lot of people don't pay attention anyway. So I'm not real worried about who knows. I live with it every day. So it's not something to be shameful about. It's just my view about how I perceive it. Now, not everybody else does. But when you have the gifts, and I've always been like this. I've been like this since I was a kid. When you can feel it and something, it makes your skin, chicken skin up and your neck burrow like a cat when something is negative. But it was almost like there were things that were on that property that were trying to keep things at bay, and they were having a damn hard time of it. That there were things that were good that were protecting that land, but that land was a portal. I swear to all get out. There was a lot of things. It was a multitude of things. It wasn't just one thing, but the one thing you were talking about was what the gentleman had told me. And this man is probably the most honest damn man I ever met in my life. And that's the way how I like my friends. If I call somebody, that saying somebody's a friend is a very tight word for me because I don't have a lot of them for a reason. Like you're a friend, you're honest, we talk. But this man, he was honest, and we were just telling stories one day, and we were visiting. This is before we actually moved in with him for a little bit because it was temporary because we were trying to look for a place. But the area that we were in was, I'm going to tell you, was absolutely fucking horrible. I said the F word. So it was absolute, because that's the only way I can describe it.
That's fine.
And he came out of the blue and he was talking and stuff. He's like, him and his ex-wife had lived there with her kids. She had kids from a previous marriage. Some happened to the father. I don't know if he committed suicide or something or whatever. They didn't live in that. This is a home that they got after. They rented land from people that had over 200 acres of land. They owned a lot of land. And it was just a little simple trailer in the middle of nowhere. And it had a little deck on it, and it had an old farmhouse in it, but the farmhouse was covered. It had the people that own it. It was a storage is what they used. And when they came with the house, there was 2 old dogs. One was a mom dog and one was the male, her son. And I think the boy was blind from what he was telling me. And he said that the man's son that took over everything after the old man died, the farmer died, so that they left the animals there. That he pretty much, him and his wife took care of those animals till they just disappeared one day. So they rented the cattle. People would come and use the land and rent it out to put their cattle on. And mind you, when I tell you this is a middle of nowhere place, they have a gas station. And it's 20 minutes to the nearest city to even go to a Walmart or go anywhere that has a restaurant. And the man said that one day this dog showed up out of nowhere. And it was fine when they first met. It had one, and you got to pay attention to this part. It had one white eye and one black eye, which the way that is, it's either got Aussie in it, it's mixed with Australian Shepherds to have those eyes. and huskies, usually. Cattle dog do. Border collies will have them. Australian shepherds have that genetic. So he said that they were fine for a while, and he looked out the window one day and that dog had a calf by the neck, and he about lost it, which he should, because a part of being on that land was that if there was anything that was not right, that he needed to contact the landowner so that they could get a hold of the people that actually owned the cattle. Dog had that calf by the neck. That's not good. Any kind of animal that's people stock, and people that are tuning in and don't understand how big livestock is to people, that's their only livelihood, that some of those calves run about 1,300 or more, depending on their age. Cattle's a lot of money a piece to be losing.
Great.
So he went out and tried to get that dang dog off of him and stuff. And again, I told you to pay attention in the story about the eyes on that dog. He said that dog turned its head and both of them eyes were black as death.
I hear that a lot with a bad energy.
And he said he'd chase that son bitch away and for a while, and it would just lurk. And there was a place when you come up on the property, it was 2 gates that came up. It's just a barbed wire gate and stuff. If you've run in cattle fence goes up. It's not paved. It's dirt road all the way up to the house. There's one little flimsy fence, and you come in it, and then that's where the deck and where the trailer and everything was and stuff. And they had a trampoline in the backyard. It's what you would kid, the whole backyard, the whole thing's all open. And there was a tractor that was, when you stepped off of onto the deck and you looked forward, the tractor was probably about 20 foot away. It was an old rundown tractor that it left there, and it's just taking up space. Said that they chased it off, and there was a way where the people that live, their fence line is on the other side. That dog there's like an area where it's like nothing but brush and woods, and it sat there in the middle and would stare at them. And this happened for weeks. And he said they thought everything was good, that they got this. He said he shot at it, and he shot it, and he's serious. He was so serious. He shot it in a place that he shouldn't have got back up, and it did.
Wow.
And then he says probably towards the nucleus of the issue and stuff was they had a mom kitty, and she had babies out there, and they looked out and the kids were screaming. And his wife was screaming. Mind you this, that his wife is she was a practicing witch. But I don't think that this, and to be honest, that had nothing to do with what this thing was or why it was there. In some cases in paranormal, those are the steps that you take to identify what the issue is and where the nucleus of the issue is. And me being an empath, I did not feel like that was anything that had to do with her. And I'm being honest, because I'll be the first one to tell you that, okay, what did you do? What did you bring here? What were you messing with? Those are always questions and stuff when I'm asking. And if people don't want to be asked that, then they don't need to be asked to help. So they go outside. He goes out there, and he lays into this dog and told the kids to go inside. She got him in. Mind you, she had to put up protection around it. She had protection grids around the whole place. In craft, there were protection bags to protect the ground and a soluble area, because they were hanging up because I saw them. And she told me I was really good friends with her. I haven't talked to her in many, many, many years. and I hope she's doing okay. But when he laid into her to that thing, he goes, that thing was still black-eyed as it come. And he finally, I forgot what he said, he had to pick something up heavy, and he bashed that damn dog's head in, and that's when it stopped.
Wow.
Because it had no body. And he said all of a sudden, this black shit, just black powder, it looked like something you'd see off of Supernatural, come out. And it flew away. And he said
Wow.
and the way he told me that they picked that dog up, and they had an old bench, the cemetery benches you put by your loved ones that are very heavy. Yeah. She made a binding will and bonded that bastard to not ever come back out, which reminds me of Pet Cemetery.
Wow.
And she buried it in the back. And when we started living there and find things to do, he marched me back there. You can march through the pasture, go through the woods. There's wooded area, heavy ass wooded area. But it was probably about a mile, not even, because we went through the woods. And when you go through the woods, you go to the other side, there's a cemetery over there. And I mean an old one from probably about the 1800s. I think some of those stones were like from 1860s. I actually took pictures of them, but I can't find them. I think they're on another computer that I had, and I have to get the drive off of it to be able to get anything off of that computer. But I took pictures of that area, and when I walked on that area, it was you get overwhelmed with sadness. A lot of those kids died of cholera, that died of like typhoid, died of the things, just massive loss. The majority of it was children. There were some people that were elderly, some of them that were mid-aged and stuff like that. But that whole area, when I tell you it was bad, it wasn't just bad with that. You could feel portals, like it was an open area. You could feel there was demise of native culture. I could feel that. And I could feel things that were done. But I felt something else that was there that was holding those children back. There was a fence line, and I could turn around and I could feel them. And then the day that go ahead. The day that I walked out on the porch one day and I saw that old man, and I didn't know him. I didn't know anything about him. I just knew that he had passed. I described it. I actually went with our friend to go talk with and meet the guy that owned it. And he goes, "You tell him what you told me." And I described him, and he goes, "That man that owns the property, that was his father." He goes, "That's my dad you're talking about."
Tell me about that, seeing that.
Seeing him, I don't ever know if you ever watch. I use a lot of references to movies because it's the way I can describe to people that don't understand when you say things a certain way. Mm-hmm. And I just do it to everybody anyway. There was a movie called Jeepers Creepers. The second one was where they're on the school bus, but it's showing a ghost of the two that were murdered by the creature. And they're telling them to go back. The girl that has the gift of sight, there's one girl that can see in a third realm. We'll just say psychic for the people that don't understand. She's psychic, but there's several different types of psychics. She saw them saying go back, and I saw things similar to the way that she did. That old man was telling them was doing that, trying to get my attention. You don't always hear them. You don't hear them talking in front of you all the time. Some people hear them in their ears. They don't know where it's coming from. It's the same thing of you and your husband sitting there talking to each other right in front of each other. It doesn't always work like that. Some of us, you can hear them in your mind, or can hear them. They're doing this. They don't have the ability to have always voice it. But it was almost like he was protecting. I didn't find anything negative about him. You know, the stories that Jim used to tell me about something coming up, crawling up under the trailer was actually under cinder blocks. It's up high. There was no skirting around it when they did it. It's very basic. It's minimalistic. And most people, I don't care what they think about it. Trailers are trailers. I don't care. Places to live is place to live. And it was sufficient for him. And, you know, I had no problem with it. But he would tell me, he goes, I'm out here all the time by myself. He goes, and something was under there one day, and it was scratching its nails all the way under the underbutt of that trailer. He goes, I heard it. And something was doing it down the side of it too. And he always felt like something was watching you, because it was. It was more than one thing that was watching you. I'd go to the bathroom at night. I wouldn't leave out of my room hardly. I would have to keep myself busy because I felt like my bubble of protection that I had was being invaded by several things, negative and things that were positive.
Explain that. Do you think the positive was there trying to push back the negative?
Yeah. It's just like the equivalent of a hurricane wind and trying to shut the door.
How long were you there?
I only stayed 4 months. I told him that you're not doing anything over here. You're not even making what you need. We can't find anything over here. There's nothing that I need to be around, because half the town, and I'm going to be honest, the town's trash. There's one good house for every 2 dope houses in that place. I don't want to be near it and move my kid up here, and for her to have to go to school and I have to go to work and be worried about who's going to try to break in my house. I'm not doing it. This is not a good place. And I told him, whatever is here, it's strong and it knows. I'm going to tell you, anybody that has any kind of gift, I'm going to tell you, they know. Spirit knows. Creatures know what you are. Things that are like you know what you are. You may not look the same. You may not do things the same, but something knows. And that by far was the strongest place that I had ever been to. If I ever went back up in that area again, I would bring somebody just like me and not say a damn word and let them figure it out.
So you think they stayed on that property out of necessity, or do you think they were bonded with the land and the energy there?
Bonded with everything.
Good and bad.
Good and bad. Some things are, you know, he was telling me he's got a black-mouthed cur. I haven't talked to Jim in years due to other reasons. And I've maybe heard from him probably a couple of years ago. I said hello, and that's about it. I kept it cordial. It wasn't nothing against him. I'll tell you that on another thing. But he was telling me that he had a black-mouthed cur, and that black-mouthed cur, I believe that animals have gifts. They've always had gifts, just like children. If a child and an animal acts any kind of way, I believe that you need to listen, and you better listen hard.
I agree.
And I've witnessed it myself several times. I don't doubt it. He said that there was something about that animal. He said that it kept those things at bay when he would be there by himself. It was almost like that boy was a guardian.
Wow.
He goes, it keeps it at bay, and he goes, and I don't care if anybody thinks that I'm silly, because this is a big thing, Vicky, for me to even talk about something like this to put it out and what I believe and I honestly from my heart believe and down my core. I believe that that animal was there for a reason and that it has the ability, any animal has the ability to see from different dimensions. And that I think that he was a protector in a different way, that there was more to him than what he is. And I'll just say that.
Okay.
He wasn't just a dog. I think he was a shapeshifter? Hell no, that's not what I'm talking about. That's totally different. I think that he was a different kind of being, and he protected them.
He was a protector.
A natural protector. He said that he had a coyote friend for the longest time that he used to play with, and the coyote would come and play with him almost every day. And then when activity would pick up, that damn coyote just disappeared.
So do you think the coyote was a part of the bad activity, or do you think it pushed the coyote out?
It pushed the coyote out.
Because it knew.
Animals know. There was the barn on that property too. Silver barn, just a regular old school barn like you would see on anybody's property, like the old school ones too. And I did a walkthrough on there with him because I never went out deep by myself for a reason. And
so the barn,
I could feel something in it. There was something bad, more bad to go with the bad that was already there. It's like The Price is Right, but you're totally losing, and it was just taking over. And they know when you're strong, and I'm strong, and they don't like that.
So when you have a property with that kind of energy, is it just a lose, or is there a way where you can have your peace on the property and you can just rid yourself of the bad energies?
You put a line of symmetry and you protect your line of symmetry. You'd be a fool to try to go and take on everything that was going on there. Portals, bad entities, things that were never human to begin with. You've got cryptids there, which they stayed back. In my honest opinion, they stayed back.
Did they stay back because of the bad energy, or?
They know. I full-hearted to believe it. It was half of the 5 million stories that I've ever read from people and listened to, even the people that you have had on, is that I listen and I pay attention, that there's common denominators in people's stories. Common things. That's where I pick up how to understand age with cryptids. That's how I understand what bracket that's in, what type of cryptid that is. There's so much more than, like me and you have talked about. I told you, I hate subgrouping things into one thing, because that's like you asking me for a paint color, a red. Well, what kind of red? Because I've got 5,000 different kind of hues. Do you want one with more purple? Do you want one with more red? Do you want one with more yellow in it? What are we working with here? So when somebody tells me, oh, that's a Bigfoot. Well, what kind? I mean, there's so much more, and that's why I want to educate people. I want people to know, first off, I'm going to tell y'all, jokes aside and stuff, when I get very into a conversation, I am not criticizing and I am not making people feel. I'm just very blunt and I'm to the point and honest. And that's how I do things. As Vicky has told you, is that I get passionate about something, is that I expect people to use their head sometimes and they don't. And you just try to walk through it. But there's nothing wrong with people not knowing and wanting to be educated about it like you do. I do not condone people going out. If this is not something that you go and do for fun. This is a serious issue. You get caught. I do not condone people going on to people's lands that's not theirs, that they did not get permission from. And I will tell somebody every video, we are not condoning you going out when you go into research, not getting the permission that you need, and trespassing on people's property. Whatever they do to you is on you. It is not on the people.
The wrong person will break you really fast.
And yes, they will. But it's a matter of people would more respect you if you asked and they allowed you versus, giving them the choice to say yes or no. Because you're not going to be met very nice if they find you on there without it.
Not to change the subject, let's get back to energies and your gifts, and you have carried that your whole life, and you deal with a lot. When you were on my show, you touched base on some things that has happened with your family. You had a relative that seen your, I think it was your daughter that seen your grandmother, and so this goes back a long way with you. But people now, they assume because I'm a Christian, I'm judgmental and opinionated, and I'm not. And the one thing that I'm up for is to hear your thoughts, your world, your experiences. And I've learned a lot from you because you are blunt, and you are, straight to the point, and you go where places where, spiritually I can't go, but we still discuss them. And honestly, you've made me more comfortable approaching the subject. But what would you tell someone like me that I've not been closed-minded about it, but I am very spiritually, I need to keep like my guard up because I am not really a strong person. So when I have an interest in what you do, I did the paranormal investigating for a little while, but frankly, after my dad died, I'm like, why am I doing this? Because I wouldn't want someone agitating my dad. He's dead. I don't want them calling my dad up. What would you say to someone like me that hasn't really walked into your world and your experience and the things that you have experienced, to give other people like me that may be judgmental or may think everyone with a gift is dark? What would you share with them to help them better understand?
That's a good question. It's probably I'm in the, and I'm gonna I'll tell you, and you already know, I've already told you a million times and stuff. I don't care how people believe or what they believe in, as long as you keep a civil tongue in your mouth and we can have a conversation, then we'll be just fine.
But what would you tell that person that you want them to listen to you because it may benefit them in their life?
So I just want, in general terms, I just want people to know that these things are real, that there are people that live with this every day. And there are people that are living there at the middle ground of what they were taught and things that were pushed into their mind and they were told a certain way versus going out and just go and do your research and stuff about things and stuff. It even talks about it in the Bible and people fail to want to tell that. I will tell you firsthand, I am not a religious person.
Even the Bible was, even the Bible, there were things taken out of the Bible, reworded, added to. I mean, originally it was in Arabic. So there's things that the Bible itself that we taught from or learned from as Christians, it was designed by a king to control people in the way they think, so they wouldn't know their own power they had within themselves.
And I'm not discrediting it and stuff. I will just tell you, I'm a witch. It's been in my blood for a long time and stuff, down the blood. Now, no, I came from Catholic people. Mm-hmm. And I was raised by a Hebrew man. It was my stepdad. And I learned a lot from them. And I don't discredit anything, but the Bible's been passed around more than anything, and is basically in man's word. But I'm not telling a Christian person to lose their faith. I'm telling you to listen and watch exactly what was said, and not leaning all your peace on that man in the pulpit spreading whatever. I'm not saying that there aren't good preachers that are supposed to be, but it's hard to be in that profession and stuff, whether you believe it or not and stuff. I'm not talking about you. I'm just talking in general preferences and stuff, that they are trying to do what they were supposed to be doing. And people have made it so bad that people basically lost their faith, but they lost their faith for the wrong reasons. It's not God that you got a problem with. But, it's the person in there pretending like they talk for God. I'm a witch. I'm a witch. There's not nothing that I'm shameful about, but I also believe in God. So what? I believe that he exists, and I believe that freedom of choice, he gave you free will. But I don't think that everything that was put in that Bible was from him. And it hadn't been from him for a long time. And when I talk about people like us, I'm not conversing with the devil. I know the damn difference between it. And you can't really say that to somebody who don't even believe in a God. They don't believe in it. So you ain't saying nothing to them. If they don't believe in it, then, there's other things on this earth that we can believe in. You can be a Christian. You can be a Wiccan. You can be anything in the world of craft. You can have psychic gifts. You can be a little different and still believe that these things exist outside of us. Now, the way that you look at it is how you handle it are two different things.
But it is a conversation that needs to be had on both sides, because it's just like in the Bigfoot world, the community can be it's like you against me, and it's a conversation that's rarely had where people can realize they think well, really, when you get down to the core of it, they think the same. They just have different beliefs, and it is a conversation that needs to be had between people.
Yeah.
And we're perfect examples of that.
We may not have the same beliefs, and I don't care. I still like you as a person. That's just period.
Likewise.
And that goes for anybody that I'm friends with. I have friends that think differently and that they don't follow the way that I do, and I don't care. That doesn't make them less of a person. But when you talk down to somebody and to the same God that you pray to, that you act like you got hired from them, I'm going to have a problem with you, and I'm going to put you in your place. And then that's going to be the end of the conversation. Whether you're my friend after that or not, that's on you. I didn't make that choice. But I'm a person that goes by facts that can be proved, that can be pulled up, that are not written by a falsified website. And I like facts, and it tells you plain as day. And if you want to go down that line, and stuff about people talking about us that do craft, or that are in that in craft and witchcraft or whatever we do with, there's several different kinds of us, and a majority of them, they don't believe in a God, or they believe in a goddess. They believe in the earth. They believe in the things that they see. If you look at anything that has to do in a religion aspect of people that are Native American, is that they believe in the earth and they believe in the Great Spirit. How do you know that they weren't even talking to God, that was their way of saying God? How do you know?
Yeah, I always said that. I always said that.
That they have different gods, and it may be one then combined, but it doesn't decipher how faithful that they try to replenish the earth, and people keep killing it.
So when you have someone that comes to you, they've got something going on in their life, and they're in denial about it because their beliefs, what is your best approach to them? They know they need help on something, that they know they need to figure something out. What is your best? Because you're blunt, but you are a people person, and you have got a good skill with people.
My thing is I don't want them. I'm never going to sit there and make somebody feel bad because they can't figure what fence that they need to turn. That they think that it's that somebody, they're so worried about. And a lot of the time, and 99% of the time, of people that I've ever helped with their gifts, and they weren't witches. Not everybody was a witch. Not everybody was anything. It wasn't somebody that was a godly person. It wasn't somebody that sat in a church on Sunday. It was trying to figure out where they stood, because it drives you almost batshit crazy.
Yes.
Because they want to go and figure out what's going on, but they're afraid. I call it the metaphorical doors. And it's a door that once you open it and you go on the other side of it, you're done. And it's the God honest truth when you acknowledge it more. And there's sometimes when some people are so dang strong that door don't make a damn, that it's an open, and you got to learn how to deal with it. And it's or accept it, or you're going to have to find a way to push it back in the back of your mind and not deal with it, because it drives people nuts. And people are sad, and they feel like they don't have anybody to talk to. And that's the same way with these people that have encounters with different cryptids and different paranormal activities and stuff. There are people that walk around this earth, and I'm telling you, flesh and blood like us. People don't understand what a poltergeist is. Poltergeist activity normally comes from a live human. It's energy projected off of a live human with an ability to be able to control their own emotions, that it leaks off of them. And that's where the slamming of the doors and everything, that's how that goes. But talking to somebody like you asked, I'm going to answer the first question too, is that I talk to them and try to figure out how to help them. And by doing that is hearing their story, so that I can come up with something to acknowledge them. And there's questions that I have to ask them. If this is something that you want to do and you want to understand, I said, you got to understand what you're doing to be able to do it. History, everything, family line. It's something as simple as people didn't realize they were doing something until it started having aha moments. When I have them do their journal entries, when they're going through this process and this journey, I can't walk your journey for you. I do not walk your journey. I guide you, and I give you the tools that you need to, but I'm not going to make the cake for you. I can't. There's a metaphorical line that we all have. People that have gifts and stuff, that are learning their gifts. It's a way to, the more they understand, the more they're not scared about it. Or they use it to help somebody else. I'm a firm believer, and this is just the way that I am. I don't use my gift for making money or anything. I think it's atrocious to me, but to each their own. When I decide that I want to read for somebody, and I used to read for people all the time, but being like this is exhausting. You have to protect yourself, just like when you go in the field, you have to protect yourself. Just because one thing is good doesn't mean everything is good, and it's open field. Just like I told you, again, back when we were tracked from a previous conversation we just had, is that they know, and the good ones know, and the bad ones know. And you have to protect yourself and shield, whether you pray to a goddess, whether you light your candle, your sage, whatever, and everything. Sage is not witchcraft either. I'm going to tell you that now. That's used by the Native American culture. It always has been. And there's a proper way of using it. Different ways. I'm going to clear that one up too. And people would like to lump some psychics into one thing. I do something different. I'm not doing something like the other person does. I don't know when you're going to have a baby. I don't know when you're going to win the lottery. And I don't know any of that. What I pull off of you is a lot of past and a lot of things that you try to keep hidden from people. I know when something's wrong with somebody. I know when you're not telling me the truth. And I give you a chance to tell me the truth. And if you can, go ahead.
Verify that. We spoke the other night, and there was some things going on, and you said something that you hit the nail on the head, and it really hit me so hard. I mean, I knew it, but you said it. And you just flat out said it. And I mean, I've been thinking about it all week. And I mean, and you were on cue. But we have some very serious and some very intimate conversations
And some
sometimes.
of the time when I say it, when you have a gift like this, and I'm going to tell you, I describe the way it is. I don't do this it's always in me, but I don't live my life doing this. You get what I'm saying? I work just like everybody else does. I get stuff ready for my podcast. I work on my art stuff for my studio because I have my own little art studio. And there's just times where I could walk by somebody for no reason, just like I did with you. And I'm like, what is going on with you? Because it's coming off of you like an essence. And it's not a facetious word. Sometimes it's annoying as shit. And it's like standing there and somebody's staring at you until you say something. And you're like, okay, are you going to open your mouth or what?
Yeah.
And it's one of those things. And I do it when I'm at work too. And I've had to suppress those things and stuff where something is telling me to say something. And I mean, I'm not telling you Joe Bob's uncle behind me is going to say something. It's that internal cue that I have, even with this stuff, that it's like, you got to say something. And I mean, I got to say it now, and I can't control that. And some people have been caught off guard from it, and they were total strangers. I don't know you from Adam to Steve. I don't know your favorite color. I don't know you like that. And it's not no offense. It's nothing against you. I just don't know you. You just walked up 5 minutes ago. So sometimes I have to say what I have to say, and it's meant to be said at that time, and I go on. And I may not have another thought like that for the rest of the day or for a week or sometimes 2 weeks, but it never goes away. And helping people understand me, I don't care what people call me. You can call me a weeping mama cry or whatever. I don't give a shit. You do not have to believe in it. But when I tell you something that I didn't even know, and I don't know you, and I don't get in people's business to begin with, I don't even want to know it. But I do. And I've done that. And I question that, how many years I even knew that I had something going with me. But the common denominator that I've ever noticed with the people that I've helped along the last 20 years that have gone through this. Now, I'm not going to go and tell everybody I'm the Gandhi guru and stuff. I don't broadcast it because I don't want to be bum rushed by people. If I offer it, that's my gift. If I offer it to you because I want to be able to do that for you, that is how I work. It's not the other way around. I do not like being asked. I don't like being asked unless I offer. And then I cap it, but I have to protect myself because people have things coming off of them. And that's part of paranormal too. It's that people have things coming off of them and it can residualize onto you, which it can follow you. And that's why I say, oh, a house is spooky. How old is it? It doesn't matter how old that house may be 85 years old and not have a lickety split thing in it. But the person that moved in there might.
Yeah.
And that will stir things. But me, something to a Christian and stuff, it's not something that I volunteer. But you personally, because you are a good friend of mine, I didn't mind sharing those things with you. And it'd have been one thing if you said you didn't believe in it, and then, oh, well, you believe what you do and I believe what I do and stuff. But there's things that I've proven to you to make you understand where I stand with that. Mm-hmm. And it's not one of those things I'm going to cry because somebody doesn't believe that I do that thing, or they have a skepticism, which in some things I can understand why a lot of the skepticism too, because of the people that are fakes out there, that are frauds, that have frauded people. And it makes a bad name for people like us that use our gift to actually help somebody. There are a few of them that are just everyday people that are actually on TikTok that I follow that I know are genuine. But there are a couple that have made big time buku money, and some of them are full of shit. But a lot of people that are skeptics that are out there to prove nothing, everything in the world doesn't exist, that we're just atoms and stuff. That's their motto, is to go and try to prove something exists. Well, she messed up. I'm going to tell you now, we mess up. We're not perfect. And I'm very specific. If I volunteer to go and read for a group of people or something, and in our groups and stuff, that if I volunteer to do that, I'm very specific about how I read and what I am going to do and what I'm not going to do and what I can't, because that's not what I do.
Well, I think a perfect example of the energy is I have been looking for you for over a year, and you just popped up one day. And I mean, I literally would put your name into search and try to find Emmy, because you are just one of the few people in life that I have connected with. And you just popped up one day. And you actually sent a request to the show.
I was actually going in line because I wanted to see different shows, because I like to support other podcasters. I like to support other groups, and I like to be in line. Now, will I ever help somebody run a group again? No, I will not. I will not be doing that again. I put a lot of effort and things to help people and change and make things grow, and it ended up backfiring on me too. So I don't do anything like that. I like how me and you are. You do your thing and I do my thing, but we still meet in the middle, and we're going to have more shows because Miss Vicky's going to be a recurring guest on our show in general terms, and if it's ways to help teach her and so that she understands the area and how and what to look for, and different things that she's not too keen to, or she just wants to get a little bit of education, that it's nice to learn something new like I do, likewise. But
Well, I wouldn't say it's not that I'm keen to it. It's just something I've never, I mean, I have a good ability to really read people, or read the room and read people. And it doesn't mean it's just comes from my, what I've done for a living, most of my life. But, so I'm really good with, so I wouldn't say that I'm not keen to it. I don't understand it, and I have a lot of questions. And when I have not explored, I did do the paranormal investigation where you put the mics on the floor and all that. But like I said, when my dad died, I was like, no, that was not me. I tried it, it was not me, and something changed in me when my dad died. And because my dad was my John Wayne, and I just so yeah, I mean, I'm want to learn. I don't know if it's something that is just me as a person, but I've never judged it. I've never
like
really thought anything else about it other than it being a part of a person's life. I mean, I'm a cat one. I'm the crazy cat lady. It's part of my life.
majority of this, and what I was actually referring to is just everyday stuff that we talk about on our podcast. If there's a way for me to help you understand things, that it would actually be used in the field. Now, as far as my gifts, I offer that to somebody, but that's not why I'm doing this. I'm doing this just to educate people with the field work that I've ever done. I've done a little bit of field work, but not like a lot of these other guys that are out almost every weekend and stuff and get to do that. I can't do that. I have to work a lot. So the little bit of time that I do have, I do a lot of that, hitting the books, hitting people's podcasts, listening to their guests, documenting everything. I've got a whole notebook full of stuff that I've documented just alone on Dogman. Some of it is stuff that's embedded in my head. The paranormal aspect, I did more of that research. because of my localized area where I live, I do not think that Dogman is in my generalized area now. Is it in my state? Yes, it is. It's more heavily wooded area. I live in a more open area where the woods, they would have no protection.
Yeah.
And it's and as smart as they are, just like Bigfoot, a majority of these creatures live in heavy wooded areas.
For a reason.
And it's to protect them because everybody wants to have a field day with them and get a trophy for what? That I don't understand. What you're trying to prove all the time by shooting something that never even bothered to even think one blip about you because you have something to prove. What do you want after that? And that's just my opinion about it. I don't believe in hurting something that didn't even mess with you.
My daddy said, "You do not need the blood of a dying animal to prove you're a man."
And I heard you on one of your shows say that, and I love that term. Hold on. I don't like that. I like the way you said that because I don't think all these creatures are bad. And I've made that very clear to you for many years now that I don't look at it like that. I'm not trying to prove anything. I know they exist. I'm just documenting because I'm documenting things, and and in all honesty, I would protect them over human beings sometimes.
I always said the scariest thing in the wood is a person.
It is. And I actually made a post on my actual Facebook account and stuff, and it was a telling tale. It was Bronx Zoo had put up a mirror and said the most dangerous animal, and when a human being walked up, they saw the reflection.
Well, we literally destroy everything that we have ever promised to protect. And in my opinion, the more we leave things alone, the more they thrive.
And you're absolutely right. What do you think Native American cultures? Why do you think Native American cultures are tell you no, when you take something from the land, you replenish it back. That's how you keep things going. That's why they wouldn't hunt certain types of deer. And it's even people like us that are hunters. That's why conservation is a big thing. And Native American tribes were conservating back before hunting was even like it was now.
Exactly.
They were conserving because you got to be able to have a bloodline to come to. If you take every damn thing that we have off of this planet and gut us, then where will you be? I know about 90% of these people would be gone because they can't fend for themselves, that they're too busy worried about how much money they put into something that has absolutely no value to life.
That about sums it up.
You can't eat that Louis Vuitton purse, or them shoes ain't going to be worth nothing.
Absolutely. That's why I love my animals and my family.
And that's why I stick to my own too.
Yeah. Well, I always tell people when it comes to friends, it's better to have 4 quarters than 100 pennies.
That's right. And I just want people to feel comfortable on here and stuff, that they can talk about different things. Just like when you go in the Bigfoot world and stuff, you know what to look for, you know what to listen for, you know what silence is. That silence is not good. And in some ways, and the way I look at it too, it's not exactly bad either. Because they know that it's basically nature telling on the whatever's coming around you.
Yeah. It's not always just Bigfoot either.
No.
And you get these people with the orbs, and someone was telling me the other day how they had a basketball sized orb just coming straight at them. And and it was just, you get a lot of that too. But so they kind of all go together.
It's one of those things. Is I know I say I'm learning how to. This is a big thing for me to be able to speak live. It's not just about these things. It's just because I'm pretty much an introvert, and this is probably the most anybody will see me talk in front of them.
I think you are going to do wonderful, and you don't give yourself credit when it comes to what you're doing right now, and that's talking, putting your feelings out, putting your thoughts out, and it's going to be almost poetic for the people that need it.
I'm a firm believer that there are things that need to be said and there are things that need to be quiet.
I think my husband would love for me to be quiet.
I like that you get out there. I'm liking that y'all hit the pavement. You're not just doing a podcast, that you have your area of expertise that y'all do. And that's great. And you're very clarifical. You clarify that to your audience, that this is what I do. This is what this is specifically for. I want to hear more about people that are in this kind of genre. This is what I'm doing, but I'm up for having a time where we talk about paranormal or we talk about other cryptids other than Bigfoot. There's other things like Mothman and different cultures of different ways of saying and how they say things and how they saw it. There's several words of what Yeti is, but it all and all sums up to one nucleus thing, Bigfoot.
And I find it really hard I try to balance the show where I have a lot of people that have learned to cohabitate with a cryptid on their property, but you have a whole another arena over here of people that just want them gone. But I think they are equally as important to have on the show, to understand, to hear, to get their thoughts out. And so I have a hard time balancing that. I hope in the future to get more balance into that, because they have a right to feel the same way someone else has a right to feel. And until we come together and we talk and, we give people
I would hope, and I get what I understand what you're saying, and I'm right there with you. But in my hopes, I want people to use, for the longest time since the beginning of time, because of people's misunderstanding and fear and things that have been battered in their brain with a hammer for centuries, that I would wish that somebody would use their sense and think that not all these creatures are here to hurt you. And this is something that me and you, anytime we ever got together to talk, that I was very detrimental about, is that a lot of the stories that I've heard through the podcast about Bigfoot and Dogman, a lot of the stomp stances and stuff and the charges, not one person was hurt. Not one person was touched. It's a common thing, because you're sitting here telling this story when it had every opportunity to make you disappear, and nobody would ever know.
Agreed. So that's the good thing about the cryptid world. You have the right to change your mind, because 5 years ago, I did not have the same opinions that I do now. If you ever told me that they could, there could be portals involved or orbs involved, I would have been like, because my mind was designed to be a cop's mind. Because
Right.
I was in law enforcement for so long, but the other day I was talking, I'm like, did I just say that out loud? So that's the good part about that. You are allowed to change your mind. It's called having an open mind and listening.
I'm open-minded and I will listen but I will correct something if I feel like it's not being seen, or I might bring it to light. I'm going to reiterate that word of correcting is that I'm going to educate you. I'll educate you, and whatever you do with that, you run with it or whatever, but I'm not going to sit and argue with you about it. I'm not going to try to talk you out of how the way you feel about something, but I'm going to tell you to be smart about it. Because I'm not going to feel sorry for somebody, and I'm being as honest as it comes. And I will tell you 50 million times, if you mess with something that is a lot bigger than you and a lot skilled than you and a lot older than you, and something happens negatively, I'm not going to feel sorry for you. And the same goes for me.
Well, I will tell you, like I tell everyone else, I do not go out to research. I go out because it's the adrenaline. It's the adrenaline, the campfire, the food, the people I meet along the way, because I know they exist. That is exact. I do not. There was a time I called myself a researcher. I go out.
I'm like you, and I see I see your point too, but I like the Jane Goodall or Dog Man. I know that they're there, and I don't care who knows. I don't care if somebody believes it or not. Believe what you want. That's on you. I don't care. It doesn't mess my day up, and I don't mess your day up, and we can just keep on with conversation. But I like the aspect of learning more. I know that they're there. I know what they're capable of. Does it infuriate me to no end that creatures get the bad rap just like animals do? Yeah, it infuriates the shit out of me.
Agreed.
And like we said, humans are vile. And I will tell you, I don't care. Vile.
Well, some people agree with me carrying out in the field. Some people don't. But I'm going to tell you what, if you see me, I'm carrying. But I carry for crazy people more than I do the cryptids.
I have no problem with it. I come from Texas. Do I look like somebody who would argue? I have my own firearm, but I use it properly.
And you're trained with it.
Yes.
So yeah, I take mine more for people, and I mean,
and I'm a hunter. I know safety. I do proper everything, and I'm not going down that rabbit hole. But I just say I do carry. I'm from Texas. That should be enough to tell you anything.
Well, one day when we have more time, I'll give you a perfect example of us going out in the field and why I carry. Yeah.
I can only imagine, but you have to be careful in some of these places, and including where you live and what's rampant out there. I can believe that because a lot of people that have lost their homes and stuff, and the tweakers and everybody that disappear in different places around here too. I'm on the same line of why you do it. No explanation needed to me, but I would love that on another broadcast that we do together.
Absolutely.
We can do that on one of our wild card days where we'll switch back and forth, where she'll be guesting over here or I'll be over on her channel being a guest over there. Why don't you tell everybody how to contact you on your podcast or get you on Facebook?
Facebook group is called the Not So Perfect Bigfoot Show. You just find us on Facebook. We do have a YouTube channel. YouTube channel is Not So Perfect Bigfoot Show. My email is nspbigfoot@gmail.com. nspbigfoot@gmail.com. And you can reach out to me. It does not have to be a Bigfoot show. It does not have to, be anything cryptid. We will talk about anything, but keep in mind, my show is more about the person behind the experience. And the experience and the research you may do is just a bonus that comes out in the story.
And if there's anything that I'm not quite aware of, I would be the first one to pass them your direction.
Likewise.
If there's stories that I think that you need to see, more than likely I will help pass them over to you too. I want people to feel like y'all are comfortable with us. We're going to shoot the shit. There's going to be some days where we're just going to be joking and talking about a little bit of everything. Some days you'll have paranormal 101. Some days you're going to have Bigfoot 101. It's understanding in order to be able to come up with a good response or an understanding is to know what you're working with. And you have to do that by reading and understanding cultures. And you've got to understand how different researchers in a generalized term, how they do their research, what you need to look for, what we're going to do, and what you do not need to be doing. And just being very clear about things and understanding is key in order for you to form a conversation and a thought process of what you think that you believe. And I want people to be able to say, hey, you know what? These people are cool. I can come and talk to them. Sorry about the feedback. I don't know where that's coming from, but I can feel comfortable and talk to them about things that I didn't have anybody to talk to. And that's the saddest thing that I've ever seen in a lot of the groups that I've ever been in. And I love it because people made outlets for people to be able to talk about this stuff and not feel like they're going to be sacrificed for it.
Yep, that's, for lack of better words, yes. Yeah, I agree 100%.
People that are carrying things on their shoulders that they don't know where to turn. I read for a girl I've known for a long time. She's been on my Facebook for a while, and she went through a really bad, that's one of the stories. She was actually one of my first people to actually speak up and tell her paranormal story. And she actually has got 2 of them, and that's going to be on a different broadcast. But, you know, she came out of a really bad deal, and she came from Ormonds, and you can make up what I'm saying. And it's, in my opinion, a cult way of thinking. I've never seen anything that come from that or in a denomination. And I will say that is the most cultish, haggish, nasty people that I've ever seen in my life. But I'm meaner. And I don't give a shit.
Well, maybe one day when we have more time, you know, I guess if you want to call a near-death experience a paranormal experience.
That is an experience, ma'am.
I will take you down the rabbit hole on that. And mine's
I would love to. We can do that on a different one. But this
mine's documented on paper, so it's out there.
I think that you need to share it with everybody. That's not for me to say. That's for something for you to be comfortable. And I know that it's taken you many, many, many years to even get to the point where you are right now, where you're very to the point and people get the drift about it. I don't ever want to understand something like that. I will tell you, and I don't remember if I ever told you that my youngest brother drowned in front of me when I was probably about 6 years old. He fell to the bottom of a pool. And a babysitter left us by the pool. That's before they started making people put gates around them. They didn't start making people put gates around them until over 20 years later.
I did not. You never told me that.
Yeah, my brother, I didn't swim very good, but I do remember that. And people were like, how do you remember stuff when you're 5 or 6? You would be surprised about what I remember. And a majority of it was not good. And I watched that, and I remember running to go to the babysitter, and she was getting ready to take a shower or something real quick and trying to get her, and she ran out. And I remember her telling me to run to the neighbors, and that's about all I remember because I had to have my mother tell me what happened. 20-something years later. He was blue, and he was her sick baby. He was a sick baby to begin with. And I think some of my brother's attitude, because he sees stuff too, it's genetic, but a lot of the stuff that he's seen is dark. But I think that this is where the near-death experience comes in, is a lot of people that have those experiences, some of them get awakened and they see things a little bit differently because of where they went. And it's not about heaven or hell or purgatory or whatever the hell people, the in between, the universe, I call it the universe, or wherever they landed. It's that it opens up a part of them. And if you're not, and it's not, there's nothing to be careful about when somebody's in that predicament and stuff, because you bring things back with you. Things can be brought back with you. And they're not always positive. And some of them were never human to begin with. But I'm not telling you that everything that wasn't human was shit. You'll know the difference. And I've seen it with him. And it's almost like any time where he turns or something, he has basically hermited his way away from me and anybody that is related to us. So it's a very rare point if I ever see him, which is unfortunately, and it was sad. I never did anything to him for him to act like that. But he is so angry and built up, and you can't tell him shit. So I've just learned how to stay back. And when he sees me, he says hello and goes on. But there's a lot of things that boy has not said that I already know, but I wait for people to say things to me because it's not my place.
He has to find his own journey, Amy.
Yeah, he does. And some of it is stuff that has happened to him. It was some of the instances were almost heartbreaking when he did say something to me one time when I was probably I was 25. He's 4 years younger than me. And it was sad, his response. As that I see this sadness in this kid's eyes, him almost being 40 years old. He's 38 right now. But it was most heartbreaking is that some of it, I'm going to tell you, some of it was things that were attracted to him because of what happened to him. And he's always had a light on him. A majority of it is negative that has followed him. Another part of it is the things that he looked into and didn't do properly. There's certain practices that you do that you have to do a certain way or something's going to come back on you. And I think it feeds on his life force is that I've never seen somebody so damn angry in their life. I just don't tolerate people, and I readjust my area. And I don't pussyfoot around people. I don't like people. I stay at home majority of the time. If I want to go out, I'll go out and do what I need to, but I can do that in minimalistic time because I get overwhelmed with it. I work in customer service, so I have to be around people. It's that I manage, but that's still like a super highway for me of emotions that are coming off of everybody else and on my own, and you having to sort through that and do your job and do the right thing. And then the immense just utter shit that comes from people that are not very nice at times to you. And I'm just meaner. So I find a way to articulate something because it's not about being vindictive or shutting. I know when to shut my mouth and sit back and watch. And I do that when it's needed. There's nobody to be around for me to shut back and watch. So I wished better for him, but his life has been shit. So, and I can't walk for him, and he don't want help. So I can't do that for him. He's my brother. It wasn't the first time we almost lost him. Many years later, he OD'd and it damn near killed him. And he came from 2 blue-collar families. But it opened his eyes, and he stopped doing anything. He was clean. He's been clean for a long time now. And I'm proud of him. And there's things that I talk. There was a meme, and I'll have to send it to you. And it was talking about the people with different, what they call mental illnesses, like people like ADHD, people with Asperger's. I mean, there's the Bible, like 2 Bibles worth of people's mental stuff. And it talked about, people thought that these people had demons, that they were talking to the devil, or they were talking to this. And I'm sitting there thinking about it every time that, I've taught somebody that they use that as an excuse, even when they were proven that these people can do that, and they lobotomized them for it because they didn't want people to know that it was against God, and it was against the way that the church has beaten everything in everybody's head in a box to not believe in these things, that these things don't exist. And there's people that walk around this earth clueless to anything. And they do the very minimum in life to get around, and then they wake up and do it again the next morning. But that meme was talking about ADHDers, or people that are, ADHDers, or people that have Asperger's, or people that have kids that are autistic, that their brains are on max capacity and their bodies can't catch up with it. That they were seeing spirit, and they are telling you something, and they are telling you these things are going, or they're seeing in a different dimension. And you flushed them away, but you put them away in institutions until they died and left them with nobody. Science does not believe in God.
I will tell you this with my grandmother. She lost a set of twins at birth and went through a bad depression. And back then, there was no postpartum. What is it when women get depressed? I never had a kid.
Postpartum depression.
Yeah. So they shipped her off to a mental hospital in North Carolina called the Dorothy Dix Mental Hospital.
Yeah.
And she literally was given electric shock treatment for losing her babies at birth because of depression. So yeah, I get it.
Mental illness, and the way that people want to diagnose everybody with mental illness. Oh, they say this is mental illness. You're diagnosing the wrong people with actual mental illness versus somebody who is got a gift and they don't hide it, and they're trying to tell you something, and you persecute them for it, and then things happen to you. And it shows you exactly what happened, but they're first to call us witches. Witch. Oh, you got a mole on your ass. You're a witch. You lit a broomstick on fire. You're a witch. Give us a break. The majority of those witches were not, like I said, subgrouping, and y'all all do the same thing. No, we don't. Not all of us are black witches, and black craft is not what you think it is normally. There's fairy witches. There are green witches. There's kitchen witches. There's covens. There's eclectic witches that can do, and they believe in more than one thing, and they pick and choose what practices that they do, and all of them have to do with paying thanks to the ground we walk on, to the trees that give us oxygen,
energy,
to the things that help feed us. You know, the misunderstanding is just like, there's going to be some days I'll probably be bawling because it's sickening how much you feel as things that I do that it's overwhelming, and you really don't want to talk to people about it and stuff because it's not, nobody listens, nobody does. So, you know, I'm here. All I'm here to do is help, just like you. And I believe in your cause, and I believe in your show, and I think it's amazing. And that I think you've done an amazing job, and I'm glad of how far you've grown inside and out. And don't ever stop being who you are. And that's what I want to tell people. Don't ever be ashamed of who you are and how you love and how you believe and what you do in your own home. It doesn't even have to be in your own home. You do not owe an explanation to anybody. If somebody wants to be educated, that is one thing about it, but nobody has the right to make people feel bad or use the term stupid, because I see a lot of stupid ass people every day.
I do too. Well, you know, you've opened the door to help people understand. You open the door for people to reach out to you and take that first step, because there are people that, you know, will reach out to me, and I'm not going to try to assist someone that, or, you know, either try to, I hate to say the word help, but there will be some things that's not best suited for me that you would be better suited for, I guess is what I'm
And
trying
that's vice versa. And I'm in the firm believing in stuff that if I don't know something enough about something, I will refer them to somebody else. I have no problem about that. Again, that I want to put the disclaimer up that our group is, I'm all about finding you the right help if it's not something that is my forte. Is that I have no problem sending you to somebody who knows a lot more than I do about a particular thing. I do not ever pretend to think that I know more than anybody else on here. Is that we all have our own ways of doing things, and the way that we believe that we have a common theory is that we believe in these things.
Yes, that's.
And my deal is with Bigfoot. I believe that they can walk in multiple dimensions, but I still think that they're flesh and blood. They are not a hologram at all. We are not in Back to the Future or RoboCop. So that's just my opinion about it, is that these are flesh and blood, but they have the will, and they have the ability to be able to work their way through the dimensions, just like a cat. Cats were the guardians of the underworld and protected. Bastet was the goddess of feminine goddess, is what she was in the Egyptian times. She was actually, her father was Ra. And she was protector of feline and women, fertility, reproduction, things like that. I mean, and they were always guardians of the underworld of things, that it didn't let those negative things that were not supposed to be here in this plane come into this plane.
That's very interesting.
You should look her up. Bastet, Bastet is what her name is. She's an Egyptian goddess. There were several of them.
So that again.
Bastet, Bastet, Bastet.
Okay.
But they call her Bass. And she's the protector of the kitties and women and the babies.
Well, you remember the video that I sent you where I caught the creature on it?
Yeah.
Black cat coming across, or could be any color, but it looked black, and it was just hopping across the trail, and you could see the tail curved up. And I was in animal welfare at the time, There was not a cat in that trail. I did not see it. My friend Richard did not see it. And you're looking at someone that's the crazy cat lady, but I also worked in animal welfare. It was not there, but it's on film or video.
It was awesome.
Yeah, no.
Well, I believe not just because when people pass and stuff, everything has the ability to go wherever it needs to. And if a spirit feels like they need to stay longer to protect and watch their family until they need to go on their way, then they do. But they do come back and forth to see their families. And that's the same thing that happens with your animals when they pass over, is that they have the ability to come back and forth. And the numerous times and that's part of studying that I believe, even with doing research and studying, is that I learn more and more ways to look at it so that I am able to come up to somebody if somebody asks for their proof, that I can lay this down, this down, this down, this down. Now, photography is one of my areas because I am a photographer. I've been a photographer for over 20 years. I've worked with software. I know how animation does. I know I do all that. So I'm going to make that very clear to people. I look and do that research and study it to make sure that it's not always crap. I do not go into something thinking that it is. But do I think everything that people put up is paranormal? No. And I will use an example. I came across a TikTok video that was sent in to a paranormal group, and it was a couple of hunters out in the woods, and it was a scream. Know your animals if you are a field worker, how animals scream in the wild. That is going to be the biggest differential of telling you that it's not a knot deer, that it's not a wendigo, that's not a windy boy, that's not a skinny, that's not none of that. It was a plain and simple, a bobcat.
I hear a lot of bobcats.
Bobcats have atrocious screams, and you will know the difference between that and a mountain lion screaming and fighting. When you go do field work, you've got to be able to decipher when you go into the woods what animal is what and how they scream.
Agreed.
Big cats stalk, just like little house cats do. They stalk the same way. They're just a different size. No different.
Camera here.
But I enjoyed our conversation today. Thank you for everybody that even sits and listens to it. If you can, just sit and subscribe. Hit the subscribe button over here. And if you have any kind of stories or anything that you need to say, just give me you can email me at blacksaltcirclepodcast@gmail.com, all together. Again, at blacksaltcirclepodcast@gmail.com. If you have a story you want to tell us about cryptid, paranormal, or anything, any suggestions, feel free. Just make sure you put a subject line in so that I know what you're referring to. If you can, go and see Miss Vicky's page. The Not So. I'm trying to do this. Vicky, tell them your page again.
The Not So Perfect Bigfoot
podcast is what it is. It was the one thing I was praying I was not going to sit there and jack up. But I'm glad to have you, and thank you for being on the podcast. We will be hearing more from Miss Vicky at a later time. Again, go and check out her stuff. She's got a lot of cool cats that are on there, and she's good people. If y'all have any Bigfoot encounters and that y'all want to share on her show and get with her, again, just go and check it out. Go put her whole line in there, Not So Perfect Bigfoot podcast, in your Facebook search engine, put it in your YouTube search engine. She has all the information that you need on her page. It's going to direct you to the email. It will direct you to YouTube, but you'll find a way to get to her. But I just want to tell everybody I love y'all. Thank you guys for your time. And until next time, guys, peace out.
You did great, girl.